The night before our daughter's wedding, he said, "I can't live this lie anymore." At 11:47 p.m., as the twinkling lights adorned the backyard, he confessed to a betrayal that shattered my heart. A decade-long affair with my best friend. The wedding cake, a towering symbol of our family's joy, suddenly felt like a tombstone for our dreams. With our daughter blissfully unaware, I stood frozen, the weight of his words crashing down like a tidal wave. My name is Jordan. I never thought love could drown in such betrayal. The air was thick with unsaid words, a chasm opening between David and me. I felt the world around us blur, the decorations that had once seemed festive, now nothing more than a backdrop to our unraveling. My thoughts spiraled, echoing his confession repeatedly, as if it were a cruel mantra. How could he betray our friendship like this? The laughter we shared, the moments spent dreaming about our children's futures, all lay in sad ruins beneath the weight of his revelation. I wanted to scream, to demand how he could have lived with this secret while we built a life together, but my voice caught in my throat. Claire glanced at me, worry etched across her face, but she didn't know what to say. I could see the gears turning in her mind, her instincts as a mother urging her to protect Mia's happiness at all costs. But this truth hung like an albatross around my neck, and I knew it couldn't be ignored. The wedding would take place tomorrow, and while Mia floated on happy clouds of excitement, we stood on the desperate precipice of despair. How could I allow her to step into a future built on lies? David's eyes searched mine, a mix of guilt and desperation swirling in the depths. "Jordan, I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could take it to the grave," he said, his voice trembling. I felt an angry surge of anger at his admission. He had thought only of himself. "You should have told me sooner, David. You had years to come clean." My heart raced as memories of our friendship flickered before me. Camping trips, late-night talks, the way we promised to always be there for each other. All of it felt tainted now, like a cherished photograph ripped in half. "Please, listen. I was young and foolish," David pleaded, stepping closer. But I took a step back, needing space to breathe. It happened before Mia was born. It was a mistake. A mistake? The word echoed cruelly in my mind. Claire's hand found mine, grounding me slightly in the chaos of emotions swirling around us. I glanced at her and saw the familiar hurt in her eyes. She had trusted David, welcomed him into our home, and now the foundation of that trust was crumbling. I could feel our shared pain as if it were a living entity threatening to suffocate me. "Mia deserves to have a hopeful, happy wedding day," Claire finally said, her voice confident than I felt. "We need to keep this from her, at least until after. She shouldn't carry this burden on her special day." I felt torn between honoring my daughter's innocence and confronting the truth. How could we protect her from a reality that was already intertwined with our lives? As the thought of Mia walking down the aisle filled my mind, a sad wave of sorrow crashed over me. She should have been the center of joy and celebration, yet here I was, entangled in a web of betrayal. "You're right," I said, though the words disgusted tasted bitter on my tongue. "But how do we go back to normal after this? Can we even pretend everything is fine?" David stood silent, his sad remorse palpable. but I could see the weight of my words settling upon him. "I can't just forget what you've done," I continued, the trembling edges of my voice betraying the turmoil inside. "I thought we were brothers, David. This is more than just a mistake. It's a wound that might never heal." He nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the chasm his choices had created. Claire took a deep breath, her gaze shifting to the garden that held so many memories. "We have to make a plan. We can't let this ruin Mia's day, but we also can't keep ignoring it." I appreciated her resolve, even as dread knotted my stomach. We would need to speak to Mia, eventually, but when? And how could we do so without shattering her world? As the evening wore on, I felt like a ghost in my own home, moving through the preparations while the shadows of betrayal loomed large. Guests were arriving, laughter filled the air, and the smell of food wafted through the backyard, but none of it touched me. My heart ached for my daughter, for the joy she should have felt. I caught glimpses of her helping Claire with last-minute details, her smile radiant, unaware of the fracture creeping through our family. "Jordan," David called out, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. "I'm so sorry. I know I can't undo what I've done, but I want to make it right. Please, give me a chance." His sincerity shone through, yet it felt like a fragile thread in a storm. "I need time to process this. You've shattered my trust, and I can't just hand it back to you without thought," I replied. The serious, cold reality of my response evident in the tension that hung between us. With a heavy heart, I made my way back to Claire and Mia, trying to mask the turmoil roiling inside me. Claire caught my eye and squeezed my hand, a hopeful, silent promise that we would navigate this together. But I knew deep down that navigating would mean facing the truth head on, perhaps even before the wedding. As night fell and the stars twinkled overhead, I realized that despite the weight of betrayal, there was still hope within our family. The question remained, however, could love endure this storm? I stole a glance at Mia, laughing with Claire, and hoped against hope that somehow we would find a path forward, a way to heal, to forgive, and to step into a new chapter without leaving the past in ruins. The night air was thick with tension as I walked back toward the reception area, the laughter and chatter of our guests seeming to fade into the background. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of David's confession pressing down on me like a suffocating fog. The memories of our friendship flooded my mind, images of our younger days filled with carefree laughter and loyalty, now tainted by a revelation that I had never seen coming. What had once felt like a bond unbreakable now seemed fragile, like a delicate glass ornament on the brink of shattering. I could feel Claire's hand on my arm, steady and reassuring, but even her presence couldn't erase the gnawing questions swirling in my head. What did David mean by this lie? How deep did the betrayal go? Mia was supposed to be the center of this night, her happiness radiating like the golden light strung overhead. She was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her, dancing with a group of friends, her laughter ringing out like a melody that tugged at my heart. I felt an overwhelming urge to shield her from the turmoil, to protect her from the ghosts of my past and the secrets that threatened to creep into her special day. Claire caught my eye, a mixture of concern and understanding etched across her features, and I knew we needed to talk. We needed to confront this together if we were going to, hopefully, salvage what was left of our family's trust. I leaned closer to Claire as we made our way toward a quieter corner of the venue, the music and chatter fading into a muted background hum. "We need to discuss what David told me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Claire nodded, her expression serious. "I saw the look on your face. You can't keep this bottled up. We have to address it before it festers." Taking a deep breath, I tried to steady my racing heart. "He said he can't live with the lie anymore, but what does that even mean? I thought we had a solid friendship, and now I feel like I'm on shaky ground." Claire reached for my hand, giving it a gentle, comforting squeeze, a silent reminder that we were in this together. "Whatever it is, we'll face it as a team. We owe that much to Mia," she replied, her voice confident, steady, and resolute. As we stood there, the chaos of the wedding swirled around us, but all I could focus on was the knot in my stomach, tightening with every passing moment. "Do you think he—" My question trailed off, the fearful, unspoken fear hanging in the air. "Do you think he hurt her somehow?" Claire's eyes, surprised, widened, and she shook her head vigorously. "No, I don't believe that. David has always cared for Mia, but whatever he's holding on to could, fearful, jeopardize everything." I nodded, feeling a hopeful flicker of hope amid the darkness. "Then we confront him, right now." Claire hesitated for a moment, then nodded again, determination settling in her gaze. We walked back toward the center of the reception, weaving through the guests who were blissfully unaware of the tension looming just beneath the surface. As I scanned the room, searching for David, I caught sight of him standing near the bar, a drink in hand, looking lost in thought. "David!" I called out, my voice cutting through the laughter and music. He turned, surprise flashing across his face. I could see that he had been caught in his own web of turmoil, and for a moment, I felt a pang of empathy for him. "Can we talk?" He hesitated, glancing around as if searching for an escape route, but eventually nodded. We moved to a more secluded area, away from prying eyes and ears. The tension between us was palpable, like a live wire ready to spark. "You said you couldn't live with the lie anymore," I began, trying to maintain a calm tone, even though my emotions were fraying at the edges. "What did you mean?" David sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from years of friendship. "I didn't want to ruin your family's happiness," he started, his voice strained. "But I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." "What are you talking about?" I pressed, trying to make sense of the chaos. "Is this about Mia?" He looked at me, his expression a mix of guilt and remorse. "No, it's about something I did long before she was even born. Something I've regretted ever since." My heart, fearful. The shadows of the past were creeping in, and I was terrified of where this conversation would lead. As he spoke, the details began to unfurl like a dark tapestry woven with sad and sorrow. Each word felt like a dagger, piercing through my memories of our friendship, and with every confession, I felt the fabric of my life unraveling. "I thought I could protect you by keeping it a secret," he admitted, his voice cracking. "But it's been eating away at me. I can't be happy for you and Claire, knowing what I've done." My mind raced, trying to connect the dots. "What you did, it affects us?" I asked, hoping against hope that his betrayal wasn't as severe as it felt. He nodded slowly, his eyes filled with remorse. "Yes, and Mia deserves to know the truth. She shouldn't have to carry this burden." The gravity of his words settled heavily in the air between us, and I felt a disgusted wave of nausea wash over me. In that moment, it became clear that the wedding was about to transform into a fearful reckoning, one that could change our lives forever. I glanced over at Claire, who was watching us with concern etched on her face. How could I bring this all to light before Mia's big day? "David, this isn't just about you anymore," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Serious, it's about our family. We need to find a way to protect Mia from this truth until we can make sense of it ourselves." He looked like he might argue, but then seemed to deflate. "You're right. I just wanted to come clean, but I didn't think about how it would affect her." Claire's presence beside me was a confident, steadying force as we faced David together, united in our serious resolve to shield our daughter from the fallout of the past. But as I looked into David's eyes, I wondered if we could truly contain the damage that had already been set in motion. The night was still young, but the air felt mysterious with the possibility of truth, and I knew that the events of the evening would lead us toward a reckoning that none of us could escape. As David's words hung in the air, the weight of them crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under into the depths of confusion and betrayal. It felt as though the ground beneath my feet had shifted, and I struggled to find my footing. "What do you mean you can't live this lie anymore?" I managed to ask, my voice a harsh whisper, laden with disbelief. The vulnerability in David's eyes told me he had been carrying this burden for a long time, and now, with the wedding just hours away, he had chosen this moment to reveal the truth. He ran a hand through his hair, the familiar gesture showing his own distress. "Jordan, it's about Mia. It's about what happened years ago," he said, his voice trembling slightly. I felt my heart race, the mention of my daughter's name sending a fearful jolt of panic through me. The memories of that time were hazy but sharp, like shards of glass waiting to cut. I had pushed so much away, convinced that the past could remain buried if I just ignored it long enough. But here we were, on the brink of a celebration that should have been filled with joy. And instead, I was faced with the specter of a past I thought I had moved beyond. "What does this have to do with Mia?" I asked, my breath catching in my throat as I braced myself for whatever he was about to reveal. There was a nervous silence, heavy and suffocating, as David seemed to struggle with how to articulate the truth. He looked away, his gaze drifting toward the window where the moonlight spilled in, illuminating the room. "It's complicated. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I was there that night when things went wrong." I felt the air drain from my lungs. The night he was referencing was one I had tried to erase from my memory, a night shrouded in sad and confusion. I recalled the arguments, the heartbreak, and the promises that were broken. "You were there?" I repeated, feeling the ground beneath me buckle again. "You didn't tell me. Why didn't you ever say anything?" Angry, he turned back to face me, his expression tormented. "Because I didn't know how to. I thought I could protect you, protect Mia. But keeping this secret is tearing me apart." My heart pounded harder as the gravity of his words settled in. The realization that David had been involved in a pivotal moment of my life, one that had forever altered our family's path, felt like a betrayal in itself. "Tell me what happened," I urged, desperation clawing at me. "I need to understand." David nodded, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly as he prepared to share. "It was a party, one of those college reunions we went to. Mia was just a little girl at the time. I should have been looking out for you, but I got caught up in my own choices." He took a deep breath, the weight of his confession palpable. "I made a mistake. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. But what I saw that night, it changed everything for me. And I should have told you then. I should have been honest." Each word felt like a knife, cutting deeper into the fabric of my trust. "What did you see? Who was involved?" I asked, my voice now barely above a whisper. He hesitated, and in that moment, I felt the crushing realization that whatever revelation he was about to share could very well unravel our lives. "It was a fight between you and Claire," he finally said. "You were both drinking, and the tension just exploded. I thought you were going to hurt each other." The memories flooded back, chaotic and painful, pulling me down a rabbit hole I had tried to forget. "I never meant to hurt her," I said, more to myself than to him. David's gaze softened, his expression filled with empathy. "I know, but it escalated. In the heat of it all, I made a decision that I thought was right at the time. I intervened, and in doing so, I made things worse." My mind raced, struggling to piece together the fragments of our past. I remembered the aftermath of that night, the cold silences, the walls that had slowly built up between Claire and me, and the way Mia had looked at us with confusion, trying to understand why her family was fractured. "You could have told me," I said, anger rising in my chest. "You could have saved us all this pain." "I was scared," David admitted, his voice cracking. "I thought I was protecting you both, but now I realize that every moment I stayed silent was a moment wasted." The weight of his honesty hit me like a tidal wave, and I felt a mixture of anger and gentle gratitude toward my friend. His admission had carved a chasm between us, yet in some twisted way, it was also a hopeful bridge to understanding. As the shadows stretched across the room, I knew I had to confront Claire, to share what I had just learned, but my heart ached at the thought. Would this shatter the fragile peace we had built? As I stood there, a maelstrom of emotions swirling within me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dawn of Mia's wedding would bring not just joy, but reckoning. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. "David, we need to tell Claire together," I said, my voice firm despite the turmoil inside. "There's no more hiding. We owe it to Mia to be honest, to face whatever comes next as a family." David nodded, his face a mask of resolve. It was time to unravel the tangled web of lies and secrets before the dawn broke, and we crossed a threshold we could never return from. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I watched David's nod. The moment hung heavy in the air between us, weighted with the serious gravity of what was to come. In the dim light of the living room, shadows danced along the walls, flickering like the doubts in my mind. I glanced at the wedding preparations cluttering the corners, the piles of gifts, the silk flowers, the carefully arranged seating cards, and realized that this celebration of love had become a stage for our darkest secrets. "Where do we even start?" David asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it aloud would unleash an avalanche of consequences. I looked at him, my best friend, a man who had been my confidant for decades, and I could see the turmoil in his eyes. It was an echo of my own dread, a reflection of the storm brewing inside me. We had built our lives around trust, yet here we stood, teetering on the brink of betrayal. "Let's just be honest," I replied, though I could feel the knot tightening in my stomach. "We tell her everything. Claire deserves to know the truth, and so does Mia." The words felt foreign on my tongue, a bitter pill that I had never intended to swallow. I had always believed that protecting my family meant shielding them from the past. Yet here was David, armed with a truth that had the power to shatter everything. David took a step closer, his brow furrowing. What if she can't forgive us? The worry in his voice struck a chord deep within me. I had always seen Claire as the backbone of our family, strong and unwavering, but even the mightiest can crumble under the weight of betrayal. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to gather my thoughts. If we don't tell her, we're choosing to live in a lie, and that's a far worse fate. With that, I turned toward the hallway where Claire was finishing up last-minute arrangements. I could hear her humming, soothing, and maddeningly innocent. It reminded me of all the good times we had shared, the laughter and love that had built our life together. How could I taint those memories with a revelation so stark? Yet, in my heart, I knew I owed it to her to be open about the shadows lurking in our past. "Let's do this," I said, steeling my resolve. David nodded again, but the nervous apprehension lingered in his eyes. As we walked down the hall, each step felt heavier than the last, as if we were marching toward an inevitable reckoning. I reached for the door, hesitating for just a moment. I could picture Mia's radiant smile tomorrow, the way she would light up in her wedding dress, surrounded by friends and family. Would this moment alter everything she had dreamed about? When I finally pushed the door open, Claire turned to us, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "What's going on? You both look like you've seen a ghost." Her words hit me like a physical blow, amplifying the guilt that had already settled in my chest. "Claire, we need to talk," I said, my voice faltering for a second as I searched for the right words. David stepped beside me, and I could feel his tension radiating off him. The air in the room thickened, weighed down by the unspoken truth we had carried for far too long. "About what?" Claire asked, her brow creasing in surprised confusion. "Is it about Mia's wedding?" "Because everything is set. I just have to—" "No," I interrupted, forcing the words out. "It's about something else, something important. It's about us." Claire's expression shifted again, a mix of concern and, surprised, confusion etching deeper lines on her forehead. "What do you mean, Jordan?" There was a certain serious finality in her tone, a quiet challenge that made my nervous stomach churn. It was as if she could sense the fearful storm brewing between us. Taking a deep breath, I glanced at David for support. He stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly. "Claire, I need to tell you something that I should have shared a long time ago." I watched as, surprised, realization dawned on her, the way her eyes widened and her breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What are you saying?" "It's about Mia," he continued, his voice cracking under the weight of the revelation. "There's something you don't know, something that happened years ago." Claire's face shifted from confusion to concern, and I knew this was the moment where everything would change. She took a step back, crossing her arms defensively, as though bracing for an impact. "What do you mean? Just tell me already." David hesitated, the tension thickening in the air. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between protecting Claire and revealing the truth. I stepped forward, my heart racing. "Claire, please, just listen to him." Finally, he took a deep breath and let it out slowly, words tumbling from his lips like stones. "I was there the night Mia was conceived. I didn't want to be, but I was." A deafening silence filled the room, punctuated only by the sound of Claire's sharp intake of breath. Her expression morphed from shock to pain, as if I could see the fabric of her reality fraying before my very eyes. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What are you saying?" "Claire, I should have told you before," David confessed, looking visibly shaken. "But I thought it was better to protect you. I thought it would just go away." The color drained from her face, and I could see the pieces of her world crashing down around her. It was a crushing blow, one that would require all of us to face the truth about our past and the future we thought we had built. "We need to talk about this," I said, urging Claire to hold on, knowing the next few moments could redefine everything we thought we knew. As I stood there, helpless and heartbroken, I realized that the path ahead was riddled with pain, yet somehow it was a necessary step toward healing. I took Claire's hand, hoping to convey my gentle support and love, ready to weather the storm that was about to unfold. Now that I had taken the leap, I could only hope that this painful honesty would eventually pave the way for understanding and forgiveness, not just for us, but especially for Mia. The dawn of her wedding day loomed, a stark reminder that love, in its truest form, often comes intertwined with heartache. In the shadows of our past, I could feel the promise of a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to reconcile, and perhaps to truly learn what it meant to love unconditionally. I invite you all to reflect on your own stories, moments of truth, confessions, or shared burdens. How did you navigate through the complexities of love and loyalty? Share your experiences with me. I'd love to hear how you found healing amidst chaos.